How's it going, Rick?
It's a Tuesday. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. As I always say.
Beautiful day in the neighborhood. And
Yeah.
we were talking about what we should cover today in
hmm
our podcast. And there's so much to cover in real estate.
hmm
And you want to pick things that are relevant, relative, and won't bore everybody. So we picked a hot topic because I've actually had a few calls about this in the last
hmm
7 days. And that was people calling to find out if there's any first-time home buyer
hmm
programs out there. So I thought we would talk a little bit about FHA, VA,
hmm
CalHFA, that sort of thing, and anything that you know.
It's all good stuff, by the way. Yeah, it is a hot topic right now. I'm getting some of those calls as well and talking to those buyers. So it's important that we really address how those really work because sometimes the media, Google searching, that's a slippery slope.
Right.
And so let's talk about maybe what they are not, and really how they work and what they
Yep.
can expect.
Let's do
And
it.
and and so in my experience, when I talk to someone that says, "Yeah, I want a first time buyer program," that's great. We can do those, but let's be clear about first time buyer. It is not a free giveaway. It's not a deal where you have no money, no income, but you can buy a house. I do a lot of I've talked to a lot of people where they want to do a first time buyer program and they make $40,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I wish we could get someone a house for $40,000 a year, and they've got no
Amen.
money. Right?
Mm-hmm.
But so with first time buyer programs, you still have to have a good income and you still have to have some money for closing costs at least, and maybe even some money for them toward the down payment.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not a freebie per se. Now it does fit a certain niche. And what I mean by that is typically, and there's two types of first time, so actually it's called down payment assistance is really the name for it.
Mm-hmm.
And so typically it's 3 to 5% of your
Mm-hmm.
sales price is a contribution toward your down payment and closing costs.
Mm-hmm.
Now, however, there's restrictions to all of that. When you are in a first time buyer program, the interest rate on the first mortgage is typically higher and the costs for the loan are higher.
Mm-hmm.
So typically can be about a 1 point to 1.5 points cost on the loan. Well, if they're giving you a 3% toward the concession or 3% toward the sales price, you eat up half of that just with the costs, and then you have a
Mm-hmm.
higher rate. So they don't always give you. Yes, you get the money, but it's used a lot to pay for the program. But there's two types of down payment assistance. One is what's called a grant. So what that means is that after a certain period of time, the loan is forgiven. By the way, they are all second mortgages. It's not like here's the money, go buy a house. They are all secured by a second mortgage on the house.
Mm-hmm.
So when you have a grant, that's a note on the house, and it's typically for 5 years. And so what happens if you're in the house after 5 years, the grant is forgiven. You don't have to pay it back.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, let's talk about what the restrictions are on all these programs, especially on the grants. If it's a 5 year grant, you have to live in that house as your primary residence for that full 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And so let's say you buy the house, then 3 years from now you go, yeah, I think I want to move to wherever, and I'm gonna rent the house out. Well, if you do that, that grant money that you got is immediately due and payable. You're
Mm-hmm.
back right there on the spot. Okay.
Wow.
So if you're going to do that type of loan, you need to really be in the house for that period of time. And if you sell the house beforehand, or if you refinance the house, you've got to pay that grant off
Mm-hmm.
within that
Mm-hmm.
5 year period.
Wow. Yeah. So there's no free money.
Right.
You still have to have some skin in the game. You still have to have some
Right.
of your own money to put down.
hmm
Minimum probably about what, 3%, right?
I would say so. Yeah.
Okay. And closing costs on most of these programs are going to be, 1 to 3% as well.
hmm
Um, so that's interesting. And so
Yeah.
there's no free money. They're always usually seconds on the
hmm
house.
Correct.
And sometimes using those programs triggers a higher interest rate on your first loan.
Right.
hmm And it might have a little extra closing costs as well.
hmm Correct.
And you can't move out of the house and rent it and keep that program because If they find out that you have a different primary residence, then it's going to be due and payable, right?
Correct. For the grant, correct.
Interesting. You know,
Yeah.
I don't know. It seems like the most straightforward programs to use
Mhm.
is the FHA and the VA
Mhm.
program. You
They're
know,
very
are the
good
best
programs. I love
programs.
those loans. Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, if someone runs into anything and they want to know more about it, they can message us and we'll
Yeah.
check it out and
Yep.
report back to them because, you know, we want people to be able to buy and not be on the sidelines because, you know, prices, even though interest rates are at 7% or give or
Wherever
take a
they
little
are.
bit.
Sure.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know, people are still buying, things are still
Mhm.
moving. And so
Mhm.
the more information that you have, the better decision you can make and get yourself a house and stop having to think about this, you know?
Exactly. Great point. And that's important to always reach out to us because there's options, right? And there's only
Yeah.
so much we can talk about on these calls. So everybody's circumstance is a little bit different. And
Hmm.
depending upon what that is, there might be a way we can help them structure something that makes good sense. Just
Yeah.
structure something that they can live with it. And it may be a first-time buyer program. It may be something different than that, but it may be something they're not aware of or we may not read on the internet, right?
Yep. Agreed. Agreed. I
But
think it's always better just to call us so we can
yeah, vet
kind
it
of
out.
rake it over the coals and see what we got,
Yeah.
you know?
But the important thing to know on any loan program, any special program, concessions, down payment assistance, grants, whatever those are, you still have to have a good job that pays really well, like any other buyer would have. And you have to
Mm-hmm.
have some money into the game. But
Right.
they're good
Yes.
programs for certain types of people for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Well, good. Well, thank you, Rick. I appreciate you and have a wonderful rest of the week.
Thanks. Appreciate it, Megan. Appreciate you.
Thank you.